Islam Makhachev weighed in on fighting Dustin Poirier, and it was a really interesting thing. My sense of Islam is he's trying to break into the entertainment era, right? We're in the entertainment era. But he's trying to be part of it and isn't sure how. Now, I don't know that because there's always a language barrier. Like Islam's one of these guys. He's fun to listen to. He sees the world in a very simple, but a very honorable place. And he has a charisma. And he is so good that while answering a question honestly, he could be talking trash and being condescending. Like they could all be true at once. When Islam was saying too many people have black belts, people need to be losing their black belts. This is crazy that these guys have black belts. Like, he means that. And if he was to compare his skills with that of many black belts, he could make those black belts look like they probably shouldn't have the black belt. So all I'm saying is he's being honest. He's got a confidence. He's just being honest. He's answering the question. If you were to ever put him out there and test it, he'll prove it. He will run right over a black belt. And it took him so long to get there. So he's looking at a guy and going, man, as good as you are right now, I was a purple belt. He's just being honest. But it can be very condescending. It can be trash talking. I love it when you can get Islam to do it. So Islam made a comment on Poirier. And he said that Poirier doesn't deserve it, right? He said about, well, I fight Poirier next. And Islam has no opponent. So he says about Dustin Poirier that Dustin does not deserve it, but who else is there? So he's talking about like, hey, there's not a lot of options. He's the biggest name. Bring him on. And that's a very hard way to get a title fight, right? Like, if you're in Dustin's spot, you would like to fight for a title, but not for nothing. Islam would like Dustin to be the guy. Dustin is a star. He will bring in a lot of money, a lot of attention. He did it over the weekend with a $14+ million gate, which I believe fell into like number 5 in the history of the organization. So you'd like to get on the docket with him, not to mention you'll get a lot of rub. You get all sorts of credit if you can go beat Dustin Poirier. There'd be a number of reasons why you would like that match. But Islam says he doesn't deserve it. And how do you get the fight that way, right? I mean, how do you make that happen? If you're Islam and that's the match you want, how do you make that happen? What's the gentleman fighting Oliveira? I know him very well in my name, but his name is very hard for me to say. Zakarian? Stud. Zakarian is a stud. And he proved that against Bobby. But if he can get the jump on Oliveira, I really feel as though he's the one that's going to draw into Islam. And I feel that he should be the one to draw into Islam. The problem with that is Islam is well aware that he needs guys with big names and big attention. And that isn't it. Now, the UFC is going to like it. The UFC is going to like it because he fits a different criteria, which is he's new. It's new blood. I mean, they had no new blood at 155 for so long, they could not get in the Charles Oliveira business fast enough. Do you guys remember this? Oliveira was great. He had a good record, but he was great. His skills were great. If the right one showed up that believed in himself, oh my God, he was a handful. But they had 5 stars at 155 pounds at the time that you can't break Charlie Olives into the top 5. If you can't get him in the top 5, you don't fight him for a title, right? He's got to be anywhere in the top 5. Not the number 1 guy is not who fights for the title. It's anybody in the top 5. Okay, great. So Tony Ferguson gives him the opportunity. Tony Ferguson is a star who's in the top 5. And the stars didn't want to play with anybody else. And Tony said, I'll play with him. I'm in the loft. Let me drop the rope down. He can climb on up. It's a very generous and nice thing to do. When Charles beat him, though, the UFC could not have fast-tracked Charles anymore. And they just looked at it, okay, we got a new guy in the top 5 at 155. Get him out there. See how far we can go all the way to the top. If you put it that they wanted new blood. I'm only offering you that example because Sakaria would fall into that. Like, before you look at it, I don't think he's going to fight in a title fight. I just don't think that's a poster, and I don't think that that's a main event. You could be right on all of those things. I'm sharing for you. The UFC, though, is going to like a new guy. 300 is going to have a bounce. He's going to look good. Make the highlight videos. You get a couple of promos out there. Oh, and by the way, you probably don't main event him. You probably don't. You probably stick him on a co-main. Bring Adesanya back, let him bring in the tickets and move on with the evening. I'm sharing with you. If you're Islam, you're very likely to find yourself in that fight. Unless you can find a partner before then. And you know what I would like? I actually think that's the right route to go. If I'm in that seat, and I think Islam agrees, I think Ali understands that's the right way to go. So we're going to try a Hail Mary pass to get something else to get, and they can only do it if they get you guys. If you guys come on board and start chanting Poirier louder and loud enough, that's the only chance. Otherwise, it is going to go to Sakaria with the win. Now, if we do go in that direction, the match that I want to see is a title fight. I do think that Dustin goes for a title. But it's the BMF title. I believe if Gaethje goes out and Gaethje wins, that Gaethje versus Islam, or Dustin, and Gaethje deserves a title fight, right? Like he's already the guy. In Gaethje's own words, you don't stop Poirier and not get a fight for the belt. You're right. Well, you damn sure don't beat Dustin and beat Max back-to-back and not get a fight for a belt. Yeah, okay, we can all understand that. But he's also got a belt. He's got a belt. I love that it's resurrected. I love that this is the first time they're defending the title. Ever. Ever. And I told you a million times. Find out why that was never defended. And you will learn a lot about what we're doing here. And Dustin did, by the way. And found out a counter to that. So, I mean, here we are. Like, we're in an interesting position. This could be, if you get smart enough guys that understand what we're doing well enough, and that's your title fight right there. If Gaethje wins, he doesn't go fight Islam for the belt. You bring Sakarian up. You put Gaethje versus Poirier. If Oliveira wins, I mean, what are you supposed to do? Pretend? You're going to pretend that Oliveira is going to fight Islam? He's not. Not according to him. I think I solve a lot of problems there. I think I make a really good point. Like, if I sometimes I do these videos, I want credit for, wow, that's a really good idea. This is a really good idea. Poirier, title fight, yes, let's get behind him. Let's reward him for the great work that he did against Jack. Yes, Justin Gaethje, you don't beat Poirier and not fight for a title. Yes, all of those things are true, and we're going to do it. We're going to have you guys fight in a trilogy for the BMF.